Alright, today we're going to be looking at a hand between LLinusLLove and pokerkluka at 500, 100. Button versus big blind spot in a 3-bet pot. So, the hand was taken from 2+2 high stakes forums. Shown here, LLinusLLove opens just min raise on the button, and pokerkluka 3 bets from the big blind to 6x. Flop comes 5 queen jack single suited. Pokerkluka c bets half pot, Linus flats. Turn comes a jack, pairing the second card on the board. And pokerkluka continues on the turn for about a third of the pot. LLinusLLove flats there, and then on the 5 of diamonds, now pairing the bottom card, pokerkluka shoves for about 75% pot on the river. So, and it turns out pokerkluka has a bluff 9-10 suited of spades, and Linus shows up with the ace jack for the full house. So, I'm interested in this hand, not so much for Linus's play. I think it's pretty standard here with the ace jack. But this is a spot where I'm a bit, I find turns a bit hard to play here when the jack pairs. I feel like I'm check folding a lot of my range because I'm not continuing betting enough on this card that is supposedly hits the flatter's range quite well. So I find this 1/3 pot bet on the turn with the 9-10 interesting, seeing how that gets implemented in game theory. So I ended up running 2 sims here, and you'll see why. First sim I ran, I gave 3 different flop continuation bet sizes for the out of position player, and just go over the pre-flop ranges quickly. Out of position pokerkluka, I'm giving like this mixed polarized-ish range from the big blind. This is kind of like a simplified version of a Monker solver output. Though I think the simulation in Monker was for 10 big blind, 3-bet size. So with pokerkluka using 12 big blinds, likely is a bit more polarized than this. Probably has more hands in these kind of middling suited regions and that kind of thing, and less maybe flatting a bit more ace jack, that kind of thing, but close enough. And then in position we have this kind of standard flatting range on the button, 3-betting most of the ace king, aces, kings, queens, some jacks, that kind of thing, getting those in as well as 10s. But flatting suited connectors, all the pocket pairs, and then suited aces and kings and that kind of thing. So the tree that I set up for this, like I said, I had 3 different sizes on the flop, 33%, half pot, and 80%. And then using these same sizings on the turn and river for all the players, and then some kind of standard raise sizes, and allowing shoves if they're less than 200% pot. And basically the reason why I had to run another sim was because the half pot bet here really isn't being used by the out of position player as a c bet at all. It's just favoring a small bet at 1/3 of the pot, or polarizing with playing like a 2 street game with 80% c bet. So favoring the larger size with like kings, aces, ace queen, king queen kind of value region, queen jack, pocket 5s, and then for bluffs like the ace kings and some of these like suited kings are used for these large sizing bluffs, and then small bets for like queens, jacks, and some of the weaker queens that it wants to bet, as well as some of the weaker jacks. Anyways, we ended up running a different sim with open GTO plus. simplifying the flop strategy to just a 50% pot size c-bet for out of position player, just so that we can get a good idea of what's happening with the tree. So here, out of position, pokerkluka should be c-betting about 66% of the time, which is, I suppose, it's a bit surprising. Yeah, I would have figured this for kind of like a range c-bet type of scenario, which maybe we can get away with. We could get away with just range c-betting this a third of the pot, but for half the pot, this board, while it smashes our range, we're almost at 57% equity. We still want to develop like a mixed strategy by checking a bunch of the jacks and like 10-10, 9-9, 8-8 type hands that really don't really benefit from putting much more money into the pot. And yeah, we're c-betting most of the queens, over pairs, ace king, a lot of the king x is a bluff, and a bunch of the flush draws obviously, and backdoor draws. Check folding kind of these no equity, like 7-6, no backdoor hands, ace-6, ace-7 backdoor hands. So let's go into check folding ranges. Then weak jack x going into check calling. So whatever, we continuation bet, pretty easy to find that strategy in my opinion. And Linus calls, pretty much not really having much of a raising range here. Effectively 0 we can say, and turns jack of hearts. And this is where it gets a bit interesting, kind of as expected on the jack of hearts. It's not a card that out of position can start double barreling super aggressively, since we'll be checking a decent amount of jack x on the flop ourselves, and in position player should have a lot of jack x in their range, so it really kind of smashes the range right quite well. But we're still betting like 40% of the time. A lot of the jack x pretty much wants to continue betting, obviously. Queen jack just crushes the boards with the boat, so it's just kind of going into a check range. Same with the queens, same with a lot of the jacks, same with fives, these boats. But we continue on betting small, which is like this yellow color frequency, with our better queens. Some of the weaker queens, like aces, kings. Yeah, bluffing some kind of, continuing betting some flush draws kind of to balance that type of range, but mostly checking. So this wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I was hoping for a bit more dominant strategy with the 1/3 continuation bet. You can see with the 10-9 of spades, pokerkluka is continuing betting only 25% of the time or so here, but it's obviously a decent bluff hand, blocking kind of the suited queen 10, queen 9, jack 10, jack 9 that are really good in positions value range. So pokerkluka bets a third of the pot, and Linus flats, and rivers 5 diamonds. And after continuation on the turn, we actually get a lot of shoves on this river, only checking 34% of the time. You can see shoving most of the time. 10-9 actually gets blocked bet for a third of the pot as a bluff instead, which is interesting. But it seems to be a premium bluff hand. It's being bluffed 100% of the time. So it blocks the calling range and raising range so well. It's like jack 10, jack 9, queen 10, queen 9, king 10 some of the time, ace 9 some of the time, ace 10 some of the time. I'm curious why it's preferring the smaller sizing with 9-10 as opposed to the larger sizing, though. So look at the folding ranges. When we shove, what folds? Here we get some folds from kind of the hands with 10s and 9s in them, I guess. When we do shove, like Queen 10 and Queen 9 are folding some of the time. So for the overbets, we're probably better off holding a king here or an ace. Because ace king is actually a call sometimes, which is actually crazy to me. But I guess it does block the value that we'll be shoving with pretty well. All this king, queen, aces, kings, ace, jack, ace, queen make up a big portion of our value range. So it makes some sense. And yeah, bluffs include, well, ace 5 isn't a bluff, but mostly king x of clubs, it seems. King 10, king 9, king 8, king 6. Yeah, the king 10s that don't hold a club offsuit combos are pretty much always getting ripped in. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so my big problem here is how to play the turn correctly, I think, or my big issue. So let's see what happens when we check. And we'll be facing this, we should be facing a 1/3 pot stab a lot of the time here from the position, and see what we do to that. We're gonna have to raise it about 14% of the time. So check raising like aces, kings, ace, queen, the ones that we check, as well as any of the jacks that we check. Balancing that with some like king 10, king 9 type of bluffs. King 9 with the flush draw apparently. And 10-9, the shitty straight just gets check folded, which is kind of unfortunate. We end up check calling under pairs, which is a bit hard to find. I think I would check fold the like 6s or 7s here for the most part. But we're check calling a bunch of queen x, check raising a bunch of jacks and ace queen and that kind of thing. Check calling a bunch of flush draws. Okay. Well, I think that was an interesting spot to look into. I'm guessing that while I feel like I'm playing the turn here a bit weak, it's probably just a product of me c-betting the flop maybe too wide. Not finding enough check folds on the flop like these 8-6 no equity shits instead I'm range c-betting this too often. So I end up with too much crap on the turn in spots like this. So, alright, thanks for watching, and if you have any comments, I'd be glad to hear them in the comments. Alright, see you next time.